Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. This is episode 94. Thanks for tuning in. The intended outcome of this call is that you, or this meeting slash podcast slash YouTube episode, is talking about being with boredom, resignation, and withdrawal and regrets. So I wrote a blog post about this. I hope you enjoy, and feel free to comment and reach out to me if you have any questions about any of what I'm about to talk to you about. So I wanted to share with you. I've read Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, and in one of the chapters, it speaks about boredom, and it's interesting, right? I think boredom is one of the most complex human emotions to be with. We can distract ourselves with social media, with drugs, or anything that keeps our mind from just being with ourselves. And I think that boredom is actually one of the most complicated and the hardest things to be with. So I want you to ask yourself, like, how do you distract yourself when you're bored? Is it smoking a cigarette? Is it smoking some weed? Is it calling someone? In my case, I definitely do whatever it takes to get away from boredom. So that looks like watching documentaries, going on Netflix, YouTube, listening to freestyle raps with Harry Mack, who's brilliant, by the way. I'm going to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So often asked myself, like, what am I running away from exactly? I spent over 1,000 years. Over 1,000 years. Spent over $1,000 on things like Audible, books, Amazon Prime to get whatever I want, right? To really do everything in my power to escape boredom. And it's interesting because meditation is still one of the most challenging things to do, and it's also one of the most rewarding for people that can't be with boredom. So in meditation, I deprive myself of distractions that usually revolve some sort of roller coasters or trying to create drama, whatever it is that I'm trying to do to take my mind away from just being with myself. Um, so, I tend to think that traveling is some of those things that I'm really happy about. And I'm curious, like, what about the other rest of the 90% of the time where I'm not traveling, right? How can I make that more interesting? How can I make that more fun? So I just find it interesting that many of us do not enjoy what we do from our 9 to 5 and that we can't wait until work is over. And I really want you to challenge yourself, like, do I want to live a life where I'm dreading the 9 to 5? Just food for thought. So I also wanted to talk about the concept of happiness. It's fleeting, and I know I'm the happiest when I'm truly present and I have gratitude and appreciation, and I get to really be in the moment. In that moment, whether I'm hiking and I'm truly present, I forget all of the bills and the responsibility I have in the world. And I forget about that mortgage, and I forget about trying to get ahead in life, do promotions and achievements and whatnot. So that concludes my conversation about boredom. I also wanted to talk about regret. Regret is fascinating. How many of us have regrets? And if we stop to think about it, all of these regrets that we have, if we didn't do it, it wouldn't make us the unique and interesting people that we are today. You know, I'll give you an example. One of the biggest regrets I've ever had in life is just holding on to my resentment for my father for leaving us at a young age. And I realized that holding on to that resentment is actually painful, but it had me be able to explore all of this self-development stuff that I've gone through, and more specifically through Landmark Forum. And I'm grateful for that because this quarter alone, my team is responsible for transforming 175 lives. And that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for me holding on to my father's resentment. If I figured that out earlier, I wouldn't be so into all of this that has led me to all these wonderful things that I'm up to nowadays. Resignation is the next topic. it's a tough one. How many times have we felt stuck in a pattern and we are resigned just thinking that we have absolutely no control over the situation? Of course, there's always going to be macroeconomic conditions, like if you live in a country that's a dictatorship or a society where women make much, much less money than men. Clearly, there's macro factors that impact us. But if you think about it, like how much power does it give us as individuals if there's nothing that we can do about it to really make a huge dent in huge controversial topics such as climate change and Black Lives Matters? I believe that the issue is that we're just not taking 100% responsibility for how we as individuals, I show up in the world. And, that means giving something up in my listening that is causing me to act in a victim like manner. So, I can gaslight or I can, of course, there's always going to be some element of people saying mean things to us, right? But how can I be responsible about what exactly was that really triggered me? And a more powerful way of being is how can I be, a question that I can ask myself is how can I be 100% responsible on how I react in this situation? In Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl really helps us see that our lives really isn't that bad compared to how others have it. And even compared to just 10 years ago, we lived much, much more luxurious lives as a whole, right? Technology has enabled us to live pretty comfortable lives, and yet we're still surviving. And I know that there's a much better way to live life that doesn't have to look like surviving. The last topic out of the four categories that I want to speak about is called withdrawal. And it's probably the scariest out of all the human emotions because with withdrawal, nothing is possible. I've withdrew many times because I believed that I didn't matter. I didn't matter on the team. I didn't matter to the company. Then the funny thing about withdrawal is that nothing ever gets resolved. Whatever I resist, it persists. Just because I quit a company doesn't mean that the context will never show up in a different role or a different opportunity. For instance, if I think my manager is a jerk, well, how can I ask myself, have I set the proper boundaries that show up that people are not taking advantage of my kindness? When we take 100% responsibility for our lives, anything is possible. So I'll leave you with this. I never said that this would be easy, but I'll let you in on a secret. Once we start to realize that everything in life is our control and how I show up in the world, am I going to numb myself by watching TV and hiding from responsibility, or am I get to choose powerfully? I'm obviously not perfect. Right now, I'm struggling with budgeting and finance, and I'm not gonna lie, I live a life of hedonism and fun, and it's led to some of the most incredible memories in the world. Now I get to choose differently and build a future that involves more than just Davidson. So I wanted you to reflect and let me know what you got from this conversation. Thanks everyone. Cheers.